So, Paramdeep, is it possible that I do not see your videos and the name of the other people? I just want to look at the
Uh,
document.
Sorry, I could not follow. Uh,
That if it is not possible, that's fine.
no,
So,
no, I could not. I could not follow. So, what?
actually,
What?
what I am saying at the top, I am seeing the names of all the attendees
Yes.
and the videos of yourself and myself. So, is it possible to keep it like only in the mode where I can see only the
Okay.
text?
Okay. Okay. So, is it?
I don't see any options that is giving me such a facility here. Okay, maybe okay, that is fine. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So I think I should start because it's
Yes.
already 12:01. Uh, I don't see many attendees are there, but still to keep the time at our back. So I would like to welcome you all to this to the first session of skill development program. And this is the program which is being organized for the first time in the Department of Applied Geophysics, at least as far as I know. And during this program, we have actually invited the student, those who belongs to the final years and the pre-final year, because those who are basically the people who may want to apply for the PhD research somewhere in India or maybe abroad if they are interested. So when I joined there, I actually, just to keep my introduction limited, just I would like to let you know myself, Mohit Agarwal, and I was the 5 years integrated student at this particular institute in the same department. And between the years 2006 to 2011, and then I went on to do a PhD from Baylor University in Texas, where I actually pursued for it for around 4.5 years. And then under Professor J. Pulliam in collaboration with Professor Vinal Sen at University of Texas at Austin. Then after, I would also like to add a little bit of background to myself, is that during my master's, I also went on to do foreign internships 2 times, respectively in the years 2009 and 2010. So I can basically say that I have good idea about all these things related to the content which you are seeing in front of you on the slide, that is for skill development program. So in this skill development program, we are going to basically talk about the PhD research, its motivation, its overview, what kind of exams that you might have to take to actually admit in a particular university, and also how to approach a potential advisor. And more specifically, we will be actually providing you a kind of motivation, because when I was a student and when I joined there in 2016 as a faculty in this department, I actually noticed that among students the craze about research is almost missing. Uh, uh, Although I am not generalizing it, because there were many students I encountered with, those who were really wanted to do PhD research and then would like to pursue their career either in teaching or in the R&D sector in any company. So to start with this first lecture, actually we have divided the overall skill development program into 4 lectures, and the first lecture is happening today, and the dates for the following lectures will be provided in the due course of time. Although I am not promising that all the lectures will happen in this current semester, maybe 1 or 2 lectures may be extended to the next semester as well. Okay, so the overall idea may be provided, and then that will be, I think, should be enough for most of the people, those who are aspiring for PhD research at a good university. So the content of lecture 1 that we will be actually covering in the today's lecture is misconceptions about PhD research, overview of world's best to average universities, application procedure, uh, duration of study, how to approach a potential advisor. So when I actually looked at the student, there were basically many conceptions among students regarding the PhD research. And some of the most prominent misconceptions that I noticed are highlighted here. Could you please scroll down a little bit so that I can see all 4 misconceptions together? Yes. So the first misconception was PhD stipend is not good enough. Yeah, that is very much understood, that after you are doing your graduation and master at a good university like IIT, ISM, so there is there is certainly some expectations that okay, after my masters I should get some kind of job or something that can pay me well. But people do not know that PhD research also equally good enough to pay you well, in the sense that not only you will get that good stipend at a foreign university, but even Indian universities are providing a decent stipend. So one of the important things that you must note is that the PhD stipend at most of the university, I am not saying at all universities all across the globe, but at most of the universities are tax free. Either if they are taking the tax from you like yearly, but they will return it back after some time. So that is kind of like when I was in US, when I was pursuing my PhD. So I was used to pay some kind of like $200 every month, and then after the year passing by, during the filing of the tax return, I used to apply for the reimbursement of all the tax. So all the tax used to be come back to my account. With some deductions were there, but most of the amount that I used to pay used to come back. If you talk about the PhD stipend, like at US universities, on an average, like there are 2 kinds of stipends available, like research assistant stipend and the teaching assistant stipend. So research assistant stipend is like where you are actually involved in a particular project that was actually funded to your advisor, and then advisor is keeping you as a research as a project assistant, as a research assistant, so that you can actually do the research on the topic that is given in that particular project, and then fulfill all the need of the project. So both teaching and the teaching assistantship, actually you teach a class. That means you actually particularly take a class, maybe 2 or 3 classes in a week, or maybe you are teaching in a you are actually taking some labs or something. Okay, so through that the university will pay you, and that particular stipend, what around in US in most of the universities, except for with some exceptions, was around like $2,200 or something. So all in all, in your account, you will every month you will get like $200, $2,000. So $2,000 in Indian currency is around like 1,40,000. So on an average, at an average university where it depends on its location. So like you may be spending like $400 or $500 or maybe $600 on your accommodation, $200 to $300 on your fooding, and then rest of the amount you will be having in your pocket. Okay, so you can compare it with the amount that you will get at a particular whenever you are in a particular job here in India, in ONGC or GSI or whatever PSC sector company you will choose to go for. So that is actually, you can easily say the amount that you are saving is actually much more enough that you are actually getting at the very starting when you are in a particular company. Second misconception that I noticed, prospects after PhD are not encouraging. That is actually not true, because is it true that anyone who is not able to? Okay, you are just asking. Okay, so so like prospects after PhD are not encouraging. That actually is a big misconception. So people are here, I mean, not here, like overall, like in the general student fraternity, there is a misconception about it that you do not have much opportunities after PhD, and that too after spending those like 4 or 5 years or 3 to 5 years, I should say, 2 to 5 years. So the PhD spends in between 3 to 5 years. So during that period of time, after you spend a lot of energy to do that PhD research, and then after that, if there are no prospects, then certainly it is kind of discouraging. But that is not true actually. So after PhD, you have several opportunities. So like those who are interested in a kind of profession that where you can actually train the students and actually teach something to the people around, then that there is a prospect that you can actually become faculty. For faculty position, most of the good universities and top class university, even at average university, you need to have PhD degree with you. So, and also there is another prospect that is postdoc, and then postdoc, you can also go for postdoc and can very much independently work for towards solving a particular problem that may be challenging, and can also the postdoc can help you with the networking among with the people, those who are working in the similar or the different fields. So postdoc is also a very good basically a very good opportunity for you. Let me complete this topic. Then after I will ask the question. I will take questions. Okay. Then there is another topic. Then there is another opportunity, that is you can also choose to go for a position like research associate, and also go into R&D sector in a reputed labs, and also go for industrial job. For example, I know where many of my colleagues, when I was there in the lab in my university over there, I know like there were people like those who went to do the jobs in Anarco, generally like in Halliburton or maybe some other companies. So generally after you are doing your master's, the amount of salary you get and the salary that you get after PhD is much more. So the PhD salary in an industry is much more if you are joining a foreign industry, and that is actually a kind of incentive. Okay, so you have examples of like if you know your senior like Devanjan Datta, and there are many other people like recently Joseph Solomon is going to complete his PhD from Baylor University. Devanjan has completed his PhD from University of Texas at Austin, and there is one more guy, Vikram Vishwas. So all of them. I cannot see anything.
Okay. There was some glitch. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So these are some of the few examples. So it's boring and incentives are left. That's also not true, because you are basically going to solve a very new problem that may be challenging, and it will depend. So if you want to explore your talent, then the PhD is the resort that you actually choose from. So basically, it's not boring. It's actually quite interesting to do PhD, and incentives are left. Incentives are not left. So you will be actually counted in a small pool of smart PhD holders. So and opportunity to showcase your talent by designing your own research and path ahead. And also you will be having a huge learning while equipping yourself with a new set of skills. So there is another misconception among students is that not a parallel prospect is similar to that of the industrial job. So in the above point I have already explained. So like it's actually a parallel prospect. Okay, so you must, if you are interested, you must choose for PhD and then go for study abroad or in India. So the next topic will be covered by Mr. Professor Sarandeep Rao. So please go on.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Professor Mohit. So as it has been introduced that this session is all about introducing you to prospects which lay ahead in your career. And today we are discussing about prospects in PhD and further research. So we need some motivation for research, why to do research. So I will be discussing some aspects which I hope will be motivation enough for taking up a research career. As you can see, is the desire to get a research degree along with the consequential benefits. So nowadays, as you know, the technology is of cutting edge. Okay, so if you want to contribute anywhere, even in industry or in academia for sure, you need skills which are cutting edge. Okay, and a research degree will help you to get that, like for PhD or postdocs. So these research degrees will help you master skills to a very great level, which will be used or will be useful and beneficial for industries and academia to make progress ahead. So those who are having research degrees, they are well respected and well in demand for cutting edge work and industrial activities and academic research as well. So getting a research degree has a lot of benefits, whether you pursue an industrial career in the future or an academic career in future. So these are the benefits of a research degree. The second point here is to desire to face the challenge in solving unsolved problems. Okay, so as you know that today we are facing a lot of issues related to science and technology, society, economics. So the challenges are everywhere, and it cannot be solved using traditional methods. So what is required is to take up the challenge of solving this uncommon problems, or I must say very difficult problems. And to do that, you need to have a research aptitude. So this type of problems pose major challenge to humanity and as a whole, and in overcoming better lifestyle. So we have practical problems in India as well as many other countries related to science and technology, like communication and infra.
Professor Sorandeep, I think there is some interruption in your voice. Actually, it is not reaching to us continuously. I suppose there might be some network problem at an extra building.
Am I audible clearly? Maybe I will stop. I'll stop my video.
Yes, you may and try with that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe it will be better now.
Yeah, it is better.
So, yeah, thank you. So what I was telling is we are having to face practical problems in every sphere of our life. So if you go for a research career, you will have the opportunity to attack one of these challenging problems and be expert in that, and you will have the opportunity to deal with such problems and help the society in much greater way. Then research also is motivated from getting intellectual joy of doing something creative. Now, creative work is always exciting. Okay, you would have enjoyed doing many creative work in your childhood as well as in your uh, college days or high school. Okay, so whenever you have done something new, you would always have the excitement to show, okay, see to your friends that, okay, see, I have done this, or I have understood this, or I have attained this part of, I have solved this part of the problem. It's a new problem, like that. So you would have obtained some joy and satisfaction. So if you are going for a research career, you will be feel joy of doing the creative work. And along with these, additionally, will be always be a service to the society, and you will always have the respect which you have for your contributions to society in making the society a better place. So I hope this motivation
I think Sarandeep has completed the topic motivation for research. Since his voice is breaking, so I assume that he has completed because he was at the last point. So now the question comes, okay, we have the motivation and we are clear about doing PhD research or research. So how to, yes, okay. So how to actually approach a potential supervisor to pursue my research in a specific field. So first of all, let's start from the first year. So like in the first year, you actually go through various courses, and second year also you went through various courses. So by then you will be having a good idea about your subject and the knowledge associated with it. So after having that knowledge and after having interactions with many eminent people and also with your fellow seniors and the students, so now you have a clear idea what you are going to do in your future. So let's suppose you have actually thought about taking research as your prospective career. So how to choose, how to go from there, how to actually make my way from there. So for the purpose, many of the people will suggest you that, okay, if you would like to pursue PhD, then basically you need to make your CV or resume strong enough so that it can reflect some of the qualities or some of the good projects in your docket, which can actually showcase your research skill set to the potential advisor. So in line with that, for example, for myself actually, so from the second year onward only, I was very much clear that, okay, I will do research and I will try to find some PhD opportunities. So I started basically looking for some kind of research internships. So for that purpose, for approaching to some potential advisor, I started to look at various websites of various universities and the particular department of geophysics, and within that, I was actually wanted to do research in the geophysics field. So the first opportunity, so I basically prepared a good email. First of all, I prepared a very good email in which I actually introduced myself and also wrote about my research interest, and also started to read some few papers of the person to whom I would like to send an email. So after going like one or two couple of papers, which I actually did not understood at all, because those were very, like at that time, those were like kind of advanced for me, but still there were some few lines that I used to understand. Okay, so based on that, I used to write those lines in my own fashion and incorporate, okay, I have read this paper where you have talked about this and you have actually floated a very good idea about this particular field, and I seem to be very much interested in working in this particular area. So after I used to keep those lines into that particular email, and then my research interest, and also why do I want to pursue for the research internship. So that kind of email I used to prepare, and then I also used to prepare I prepared a very good CV. So as per my knowledge during that time, so three things are basically required. First of all, you should know whom you are sending your email. Second thing, you should be prepared with a good email, or you may say a cover letter is very much required. And third thing is you should be prepared with an excellent CV. So now with this, so in the next lecture, I will actually show you what are those, how those email can be prepared, and how those excellent CV can be prepared, and how to select a particular potential advisor. Could you please go keep there only, please. Don't scroll, please. Keep it there. Sahu.
At the lecture?
Yeah, the scroll down, please. Scroll down. Go down. Yes, now. Okay. So this was so these three things are basically needed to actually get an internship or also to find a potential advisor. And as far as my PhD motivation is concerned, so from the very beginning, as I told you, from the second year onward, I had a clear idea about I would like to go for the research because I found it very interesting, and moreover, in my family, I had my elder brother who was actually doing his. He did his actually BTech from IIT Kanpur, and then went on to do some industrial job in IOCL. There, he could only stay for 2 years because he could not find it challenging and satisfying. So he left that job to pursue for masters from University of Houston. So that was a kind of motivation for me during that time. For somebody, something else should be a motivation, and so it depends on the situations and the conditions. So next thing will be actually explained by Professor Saul.
Yes. So I think it's 12:30 now. So should we continue, or this brings us to the end of the list of topics for lecture 1?
Yeah, we can actually ask the students. We should. So students, I would like to request you, if you have any question, then please ask.
Sir?
Yes, go ahead, Prince.
Sir, to prepare an excellent CV, what points should be mentioned?
Yeah, that is what I said. That will be a topic of next lecture and will be organized very soon. I will try to organize that in this particular month only, where we will be showing some example CVs of previous successful students who have applied for PhD and got it from foreign university from our department only. I am trying to collect those. If as far as my CV is concerned, I can show that to you. Can I share that? My
Yes,
screen?
yes. I'm stopping the share.
Okay.
Just a minute.
Just one CV I will show.
Yes. Yeah. Now you can share, please.
So like, yeah, that is the CV that I prepared that time. I'm not saying it is the best one, but I prepared this one. So are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so first, so like this is normal looking, but I tried to incorporate everything that I had during that period of time. Okay, so like it was looking something like this, and it was having certain bullets like education, academic records, publications, scientific projects that I did by the time, and then field trainings, and most importantly, whenever I was mentioning any project, I was writing like 3 or 4 lines about it, where I did and when I did, and all those kind of things, field trainings, and what I did during field training that I used to mention, industrial training, computer skills, programming language, operating system, achievements, and then personal details. So that is one example I have. I have another example if you would like to see, like this is a CV of Mr. Professor Pawan Bharadwaj. He is actually our alumni right now. He's assistant professor at IISc Bangalore. He did his PhD from TU Delft in Netherlands, and then went on to do his postdoc from MIT. So this was his CV during that time. Now the CV might be looking different, but this was his CV that time. So I have many other series because actually that was the actually I admitted here in 2006 and went on to do my internship at University of Wyoming in 2009. So that so I could say like I was actually the first student in the department who went for foreign internship, and it was a big thing that time. Okay, so many of the students used to come to me to ask like how to actually apply for certain internship and how to prepare a good cover letter and those things. And used to ask me for some kind of guidance. So this fellow was one of them, and he also sent me CV. So this is the CV that I had from him during this. So I made some comments on it and then sent it back to him for revision. Okay, so these are some examples. Like there is another example I have from one of my senior, that was Pahar Chamoli. He did his PhD from Australia. So that is like this one. So I will actually explain each and everything what to keep and what not to keep into the CV. I think that should be good enough for discussion.
Okay, sir.
Any other question from anyone else? So looks like the people do not have any questions. So I think we should conclude the session.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I would like to thank all the attendees present here for actually accepting our invitation and attend this session one for skill development program. I would like to equally thank the Aeronautical department for actually having this vision to keep this particular program of skill development for the students that will actually help all the students in the long term. So thank you so much, Professor Sao. If you have anything to add, then
I think yes, students have asked. Have nothing to ask more, so but I would like to encourage the students to ask more questions, because this session is made for you, and you should understand your career opportunities to the best of what we can offer. Okay, so maybe this is the first lecture, so feel free to ask questions in upcoming lectures for better understanding. Okay, so I think it is okay. We can stop now. Thank you, everyone.
thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, sir.